I'm here with Annie Tang Humphrey, COO of Save the Storks. We feature Save the Storks in the film, showing what they do with ultrasound buses and the work they do for pregnancy resource centers. And Annie, you have a powerful story that the audience deserves to know. But before we touch on that, what are some interesting new initiatives that Save the Storks is currently doing?
Yeah, as you know, Save the Stork's main goal is to help create stories for every woman that's facing an unplanned pregnancy, to create one that is more full of hope, full of empowerment. So with that, we're diligently, reinventing ourselves, constantly looking for ways to just be even more relevant and even more helpful in that space. And so what we are doing this year, which is really exciting, we are going to put 30 more stork buses on the road. Now, just to kind of put things into perspective, we normally do 30 buses in a 5 years time. But this year we're going to put 30 stork buses on the road. We have created new prototypes, new models of the buses, just so that they can be even more efficient and more effective in every community that they are supposed to be serving in. So we have smaller ones, we have different designs and different, just styling of the buses, just so that they can be a lot more fitting. So be on the lookout for that stork bus.
That's great. And what involvement have you been seeing with churches?
Yeah, believe it or not, there are less than 4% of the churches in this entire country that's involved with some sort of pro-life expression. And that is an alarming number. But what's exciting to see is we have churches that are now stepping in and say, what if we run a mobile medical ministry? What if we get a stork bus? In fact, we just delivered a stork bus, a brand new stork bus, to a church called Seven Hills in Florence, Kentucky. They're all in. They got so many volunteers, they got so many people ready to serve women in their communities and beyond. They are going to be that hands and feet of Jesus, and they're going to continue to walk with her. So it's exciting to see that these women are now being met by these great support, so that they don't have to walk alone during that journey. They don't have to walk alone as they make the courageous decision to choose life.
That's incredible. What a powerful example. So how did you get involved in pro-life work, and what is the heart behind it for you personally?
Yeah, believe it or not, I actually was pro-choice for a very long time. And the reason why was because I personally had an abortion story, and I thought I could never be a pro-lifer because that would make me a hypocrite. And interestingly, I hid my abortion story for a very long time. It was a secret that I didn't even want to think about, didn't want to talk about it. Until one day, and this is really crazy, until one day, 20 some years later after I had my abortion, I saw a stork bus ad popped up on my Facebook feed. And I was like, what is this? And as I started watching the video from Save the Storks, I don't know, something happened internally. All of my memories from my abortion experience surfaced as if it just happened the day before. And to the point I can smell the clinic. I can remember what credit card I used. I can remember the conversations. I can remember the sad and blank faces of all the women that were sitting in that waiting room with me. And I didn't know what to do and how to deal with that emotion, other than saying to myself, wow, I wish there was a stork bus, where I was at. And then that was kind of the end of it. And, I went, back to my busy life and not thinking about it again. And a couple months later, I saw a former colleague of mine updated her LinkedIn, and she became a marketing director at Save the Storks. And I think at that time I was like, oh my gosh, I have to do something. This can't just be a coincidence, right? So I reached out to her and told her that I would love to get involved. And for the first time, I actually wrote out my entire abortion experience, and I shared that with that colleague. And but I remember how embarrassed and how uncomfortable I was, even though I wrote it all out. I put at the very end of the letter saying that I know that you're such a devoted Christian. You're such a good Christian girl. So I totally understand if you don't ever want to talk to me again after reading this. What was surprising to me, she replied right back and said, Annie, I love you even more. I love you for sharing, and I just can't wait to give you a big hug. I remember I was in my living room and I was crying my eyes out, and then I realized, you know what? There's so many of Annie out there that's carrying this burden, carrying this story, thinking that she can't share with anyone, that she'll be judged. And that's when I realized, you know what? We have to change that. I have to change that. So I began, some volunteer work with Save the Storks. And a couple years later, I felt this nudge to do more. I need to do something more publicly to really show that I am here to serve and value every life. So I decided to join Save the Storks full time in the beginning of 2021, and I've been super, super thrilled of that decision ever since.
That's amazing. What a powerful story. How has the process of working for Save the Storks been for you, and how did you find more healing through that process?
I started healing by first dealing with the fact that I had this secret that I have to kind of air out, and then really taught myself to be courageously transparent and courageously vulnerable. I am actually not someone that likes to be in the public eyes. I like to do more behind the scenes stuff. But working at Save the Storks, it helped push me to the main stage. And I actually share my experience about my abortion to 3,500 women at Lynchburg in one of the women conferences. And I could not believe how much healing that specific event brought to me just by letting it all out. I had these women coming up to me. One lady, she said, I had an abortion 50 years ago and I kept it, and you're now the first one that I'm sharing this with.
Wow.
And so, believe it or not, that brought me healing too, just by seeing how many other people started to realize they deserve to heal, and we serve a God that is all about healing, all about transforming. And He truly did allow me to use my reckless history and allow me to create a much, much more beautiful redemption story. Whoever's watching this film, I just want you to know that when you step out of that comfort zone, when you are giving yourself the freedom to be transparent and to be vulnerable, you unlock God's power to heal you. You unlock God's power to just get you onto that new chapter where you can see why these things happen and why you are able to impact so many more.
Amen. I love that. Once you were able to share with all those women, it was sort of a release, or it was sort of a healing journey for you. And then I'm just reminded of how there's no sin too big that Jesus can't forgive. There's nothing in our past that He can't use for His glory and our good and the good of others. So I just think it's so inspiring that you're, coming from this story in your past to now working in this ministry that's actively serving and helping women and rescuing their children. I just think it's such an example to all of us. Well, thank you, Annie, for sharing your story. I know that blessed a lot of people, and it was so awesome to hear. And if you're looking for more resources on how to get involved in the pro-life movement, or even to find healing for yourself, you can visit matteroflife.org/takeaction. Thank you again for watching.